So in previous recordings, we were talking about the Moro reflex and how it activated three things in the neurology. Arousal, which matures up to attention and then to perception. It also activates the sympathetic nervous system. This particular reflex turns on around 9 weeks of pregnancy, and it is expected to be integrated around the 4th month after the birth of your baby. One of the other components, though, that I wanted to highlight with you is the balance between CO2 and O2. And this is an important one because we do have a state of fear that many people believe that babies have a higher risk of smothering themselves when they're sleeping. So I want you to really understand this reflex system, because if your baby has developed correctly, and if you bring them to somebody like me where I do developmental assessments, I can tell you if your baby is developing in the right direction, then you don't have to fear that something is going to happen to your baby. What we want to look at is if this nervous system is functioning correctly and this reflex is doing what it's supposed to do, any sudden change, and that's the word I want you to underline, sudden change, any sudden change in your baby's periphery, their environment, they are going to startle. They will be stimulated by sound. They will be stimulated by smell. They will be stimulated by sight, touch, level of oxygen. They are interpreting all of this within their environment reflexively. It is not a sensory motor component. Now, it is a misunderstanding to believe that children can only sleep on their back. When we only put a baby on their back, we're actually putting too much stress, repetitive stress, on the back of their heads. And this is why many babies end up with like what we call a flattened occiput and literally get a misshape to their head and may end up having to have a helmet put on their head, which we can get into in a subsequent recording. So babies' heads are very malleable. They're actually meant to be more like a piece of rotisserie chicken. Lay them on their back for one sleep, lay them on a side for another sleep, then on their belly, then on another side. They need to have that stimulation of moving around, never laying in just one position. If we do that, we actually restrict the movements that babies are intended to have. So if our fear is causing our babies to have movement restriction, we're actually changing how their mechanical system is going to work. And that's very important because when that baby starts being on the floor and laying on the belly, many times I have parents come in and tell me, my baby doesn't like to lay on their belly. This is a misconception. Babies need to be on their belly. This is where they're beginning to communicate with their own center of gravity, and there's reflexes that are meant to be stimulated by being on your belly, as well as the head righting reflex is already working inside of them, and they need to be able to get those little arms up underneath their body and lift their head up. If they can't do that, they will change how their neurological system is communicating from their body via their spinal cord up into their brain. Your body is like an antenna to your brain, and babies need to move. What's going to end up happening is it's going to change the whole sequence of events that is literally going to take your child into a crawling posture, which is where their brain is going to learn how to communicate from both sides, and then later be able to pull themselves up and start to explore walking. Every single one of the things that our children go through, called motor milestones, they need to go through because they act like steps which go over a bridge to make one connection to another in order for your child's nervous system to mature in that expected place. So when we look at children, those are the things that we are looking at. Did their developmental milestones come on at the right time, integrate as expected? Because then that child's neurology is off to the right start.